Patrick Johnson has become the first Australian to break the 10-second bar.
It's very easy not to be humble in those situations, but I think that this boy has enormous levels of control and humility.
When you look in his eyes, you could see the inner will, the inner strength.
Hello, I'm Caroline Jones. Never before has an Australian run 100 metres in under 10 seconds. At least not until 2 weeks ago, when it was achieved in a most spectacular fashion. When we first brought you Patrick Johnson's story, he was a rising sprint star aiming for the Sydney Olympics. His journey since then has not been easy, and it's all the more remarkable when you discover how he started. This, then, is the updated and still unfolding story of Patrick Johnson.
I didn't know what I was doing there. I never really thought of being a sprinter.
One of the local coaches said no, he was too old.
I could see that he almost didn't know how to use the blocks.
I've been coaching over 20 years. I don't think I've seen anything like that.
Heaps of raw talent.
He just exploded onto the scene, and as an unknown, I thought, gosh, this kid could do anything.
The rumour went around the athletic world in this country that we did have somebody who had a real gift, and we've been looking for one for a long, long time.
He comes to the sport from very, very exceptional circumstances.
I was born on a speedboat en route to Cairns-based hospital. We didn't actually make it on time. My mum was Aboriginal. They were living in a mission called Yarrabah, just outside of Cairns. Originally, my family is actually from Lockhart River. That's way up north. My grandmother's told me a couple of times that I was the child that used to run everywhere. I used to be the adventurous type, and any time that I didn't know their eyes were on me, then I was off.
What happened actually was that a telegram came through to say that Pearl had died in a car smash, but by the time I got there, well, everything was all over and done with, you know, so and that was when Patrick was 18 months old, Pearl died, so then I was left with the option. I just had to bring him up by myself.
Dad decided to take me on a different course of life, and that's where he took me away and took me on the boat and decided to bring me up in a different way.
I needed a lifestyle that would suit my way of bringing a kid up in a healthy sort of fashion. I just love the water. I love going out to islands, and of course fishing is a part of all that sort of lifestyle. I decided that the ideal way to suit my lifestyle, to bring the kid up without any outside influences, would be on a boat. My knowledge of sprinting and running and that sort of athletics was pretty minimal.
When Patrick competed at the Australian University Championships in Canberra, October '96, he was already 24. And before the university competition, he had actually asked one of the local coaches if that coach would coach him. And coach said no, because he was too old and because he didn't have that experience.
I watched some of the greats like Carl Lewis on a black and white TV and thought that must be great. But it was a bit of a shock to run against professional runners. I didn't know what I was doing there. There's people next to me who knew how to run.
My office window is next to the track, so I could see from my window all the races.
I put on the spikes and it was a bit size too big for me, and you know, I got in the blocks and the gun went and I was still in the blocks.
I was very, very excited what I was seeing, because that's something what you don't see very, very often. Bearing in mind that he didn't have any training background, any preparation. And it was not only the time, but the way he was running, so nice and relaxed. He didn't know how to start. The start was awful, but once he got going, he was running really beautifully.
Somehow, to my surprise and most of my friends, I won the race.
I actually went down and spoke with him, and I told him that if he does the work, he can be an international level sprinter.
And I thought, look, mate, I've just had one race, just relax, you know. I mean, I thought he was a little bit crazy, and I thought he was just, in some ways, just somebody who just loved the sport.
He might be thinking that, that guy must be mad or something else. I don't know. He didn't show a huge amount of emotion, but he expressed clearly that he wants to be a sprinter and he wants to have a try. And that's enough for me. 2 or 3 of the Super League clubs who were after Patrick and signing him to play rugby league, because he had a background of playing Dutch football, and few of the coaches knew that he's very fast.
I was at a crossroads, really. My decision, what I want to do in life, and I had university as well. And I had to make big decisions, in the sense when it came to my education and taking a chance.
I said to Patrick, I don't think we can compete with the money. What I can try to do is I can try to find opportunity for you to prepare and get better.
I never realised, you know, that Patrick would ever become a sprinter, because my focus really was on education and a decent job. That's really where I was orientated towards. We never let distance or anything like that interfere with his education. I stuck pretty well close to the coast all the time, and he never missed a day of school. Whenever we got to a town, I'd always enrol him in the school, whether it was Magnetic Island or Cairns or Mackay or Bowen. He went to nearly every school up and down the coast. If it was a school day, it would be, goodbye, Dad. I'll see you tonight, Dad. And I'd say, goodbye, son. Be careful. And get straight home from school, no messing around. You come straight back. He'd either row himself in, if it wasn't too far, or he would put the outboard on the boat, and that learned him a little bit of independence and self-reliance.
Living on a boat and going to different schools, you know, I learned a different curriculum, but I was still learning. A day here, a month here, I just kept learning. And I think a lot of ways my dad wanted to give me a sort of sense of what life is about in a lot of ways. Not just the education of the books and mathematics and so forth, but just of life in general.
During the school hours, I'd probably be out fishing, but when it was time for Patrick to come home, I'd be there waiting for him. And I could see him through the binoculars or something like that, coming and going. Yeah, it was marvellous.
Yeah, I mean, at school I had a lot of fun. I think I used to win a couple of school carnivals and win races, but it was all just fun at the time. I mean, nothing more serious was ever thought about it.
In Cooktown, things are pretty well laid back and easygoing, and everybody knows everybody. We'd be outside, and the guy'd come along, and he'd look pretty athletic, look pretty fit and young. I'd say, "Hey, mate," yeah, jokingly, you know, I might have had a beer with me or something. I'd say jokingly, I'd say, "Hey, mate, do you reckon you could beat this little kid here?"
I think for Dad it was a bit of fun, and it was for me also running against other people when I was young for a beer or an orange juice was just plain fun.
And the guy would look at him in a little, sort of thin little thing, and he'd say, "Oh, I reckon I could." Good luck. On your marks, get set, go!
I was racing against guys when I was 13, 14. They were 25, 22 or something. But I think Dad always, somehow knew that I was a bit quicker, so I got an orange juice out of it. I got some exercise and, yeah, a sense of competition.
He never got beaten either.
The night that I won the university games, I flew up to Townsville for a trial game with the Cowboys Super League. And the night before I played my trial game, Institute of Sport offered me a scholarship. So I had to weigh up then and there my option of going to try out for the Cowboys, for Super League, or go for athletics, and I thought athletics was a challenge.
That showed that he's got a lot of will, because he's willing to put aside probably a lot of money just to start to prepare for sprinting, where there's no promises of success.
Yeah, I don't know, Mum. I just got things to do, so. I think on the phone, Essa had said, "Oh no, I've got a young Aboriginal guy that just found, and I'm just going to see how he goes." And Essa doesn't say, "Oh, there's a sprinter," you know, to any average athlete. If he says something, then you know he must be pretty excited about it.
Yeah, loosen it out.
So I came up here to Canberra, got introduced to Patrick, and I must say I was pretty shocked to start with. For me to hear someone just come in and borrow some spikes and they didn't fit him, they were sloppy on his feet, and he just comes out and blows the track away and runs 10:47. It was an awesome time. That's my PB for 100. I don't know what I was expecting, but as soon as I meet him, I thought, this guy, he really wants to be, he really wants to be a sprinter.
Running by himself in one, Patrick Johnson. Away they go to Keisha, 12 off.
97, and having a couple of months of training was a bit weird, but I was ready to perform.
Patrick coming to the sport late, he never had any bad habits or any bad technical problems. He just basically banged straight in. Probably the most frustrating thing for Patrick. If you know Patrick's character, he wants it to happen, he wants it now.
When I was 6 or 7, I used to take the dinghy out and just explore an island, and that was my excitement for the day.
It gave him a feeling of independence. He'd come back with a nice little fish for tea, or he'd come back and say, "Dad, it's a beachcomber's delight. Come on over here, Dad. I found some floats," or something like that, and we'd be going over there, and there'd be 3 or 4 glass floats on the beach or something like that. Somebody hasn't visited that island for donkey ages, and so we had that enjoyment. Hey.
Every night we drop anchor, we have our dinner, and play a game of chess.
But when I was teaching him how to play chess, I'd say, "You like a game of chess?" He'd say, "Oh, Dad, not really. You beat me all the time." I said, "Gosh, if you're going to give up just because I'm beating you, son, you just keep giving up all your life."
I think after a while I got frustrated and thought, there's no way I want to get beaten.
And it wasn't long before I thought, I'm losing to this kid. He's actually more cunning than me. He got very competitive because then I'd say, "Well, if I can't beat you on the chessboard now, son, I'll beat you on the beach. I'll race you from that point to down there through the sand. The loser will have to row the dinghy back to the boat." But it wasn't long, just like the chess game, it wasn't long before he was beating me.
Living on the boat for that long, I think it just got me more competitive, getting beaten every day, every night. It's a different ball game now.
Patrick Johnson, the man that we're all watching from 7.
First season, 97, was very, very successful one.
Johnson away pretty well by his standards. He's going out quickly.
We got very good results out of 4 months of good training. I tried to be very, very careful with him, but at the same time, we were working a lot and hard.
He has a little peep across at the crowd, in fact, Patrick Johnson, and runs a time of 20.73 unofficial.
100, 200, who knows? As I said, I'm still learning.
You are still learning because you only run it about half a dozen times. Are you getting better technique-wise?
Yeah, as I said, I'm starting to actually understand about athletics, so it's getting there slowly.
His body's had to learn very quickly, but he adapts very quickly. If you hear about his life story, that's something he's been forced to do right from a young age, adapt and survive.
I was responsible for dropping anchor or steering the boat to an island. And my dad would sleep on the bunk for maybe 5 hours, have a good sleep. You know, I was responsible for my dad's life and also my own. We used to get caught in some of the storms, and I had to learn if the boat tipped over or capsized, then swim towards the shore and hopefully survive, so the life and death situations.
I started to realize that along his life, he's always made most of it, and he never gives up. You know, when it's storm, you just have to keep on going. Otherwise, if you give up, then you lose your life.
I'm always on the verge of sickness, always pushing our bodies to the next limit. We're always fatigued. A lot is technical, a lot is power, and a lot is surviving. In a lot of ways, I'm just surviving the training session.
That fire he has inside, he can actually push to a very, very limit, and you don't see it very easily. When you look in his eyes, you could see the inner will, the inner strength.
Every time I run, I'm tearing little muscles, and my body needs to adapt to that, get stronger, get better.
I have to be very, very realistic and very strong, that we don't train too much. And sometimes it's very hard. A burning feeling.
It's just all very tender. I think it's just all the running.
Yeah.
Coaches are fundamentally basic, particularly when you're going to be a sprinter, because there's so much work goes into style and strength work and just, you know, the training programs. There's a real gift to putting the right training program to the right athlete.
After training sessions, I just grab something to eat and I go to bed. Sometimes I'm just too buggered. Mentally and physically, my body has taken a battering. I need to get my 10 hours or 12 hours sleep and get ready for the next day.
Can you take another one? I screwed my face up.
They asked me to come up to Uluru for a conference regarding Aboriginal sporting kids looking at getting their career in sports.
There we go.
I think a lot of people forget I only started in 97, so I'm still learning everything about sprinting. I think 97 I started out, you know, running against the guys like Carl Lewis, Linford Christian. I thought, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be here. You know, I can't go to the guys and say, look, can you take it easy? I've just started last week, you know. You know. So it was a bit of a shock, and I thought, oh my God, you know,
The community in Uluru is just great. It is me. It is part of my history and my background. It's a strong sense of who I am. I was a kid again, and I was just having fun with the kids and just free.
Though I did instill Patrick in the spiritual values of things, I also had to give him a practical sense also. I taught him never to destroy things wantonly and always to have respect for living creatures.
And Dad said, well, it's time to get an education, a formal education, and get my HSC, go on to university. And that's where we came down to Canberra and decided to forge my life, so to speak, in a different aspect. I got a scholarship at a Royal College in Mossvale. It was actually an overseas boarding college. And I was actually the first Australian to ever attend the school. And it was a bit of a shock to me because, you know, I still had a lot to learn.
Patrick, I don't think was ever satisfied with being second best. He liked to win, which is why I think he kept beating me at chess. It led me, obviously, to be curious about how it happened that a boy who, on his own admission, had not had a good, solid education, didn't seem to be lacking in confidence or in self-esteem at all.
A lot of these students at a Royal College were overseas students, so in a way I had to learn the language if I wanted to survive.
He really was a very, very fluent Cantonese speaker. The fact that Patrick left here and went to Foreign Affairs probably would have surprised the casual observer, but it's typical of Patrick that he sets out to do something, and indeed succeed he did.
In the men's 100 metres, it was Matt Shervington versus Patrick Johnson.
Away, Shervington not the
This
best to begin.
year 2000 domestic season, he ran again many personal bests.
After Johnson, Johnson's got him though.
He ran good races with Matt Shervington, who is an international sprinter, and certainly Patrick had an upper hand on that.
But losing to Patrick Johnson on a regular basis wasn't part of the plan.
He ran 10:10 in 100, best time by Australian on a home soil.
Shervington needed a morale-boosting win, but Johnson again had his measure.
Every sprinter wants the sub-10, so I'm thinking to myself, if other people have done it, then why can't I?
The Australians coming through to Johnson.
Patrick's rise was very steep and very quick.
Waited, might have been out of the box. We might be in trouble.
It made it very hard for him to cope when he plateaued off and couldn't keep up the standard.
The Australians are protesting the disqualification of our team.
He just hit the tough times and missed out on running the 100 metres at the Commonwealth Games. He was confused. He didn't know where to go. He didn't give it up. He was tough. And since the 2000 Games to now, it's been a matter for Patrick where he sat back and he said, OK, I had to change something in the career and to keep it heading forward. Patrick's shown enormous strength in his ability to have great success, you know, hit the tough times and go back to basics, not walk away, and work hard at his skill and try and turn it around. And in fact, he has. The 10-second barrier is as significant as the 4-minute mile. It's a huge barrier to break.
If other people have done it, then why can't I?
10 seconds is an awful short period of time to get something right. It's when you want all of your senses to be right on tune to be able to move when the gun goes.
Patrick Johnson has become the first Australian to break the 10-second barrier over
Last night, he became the first Australian to go under 10 seconds at a race in Japan with a time of 9.93.
Breaking Matt Shervington's 5-year-old record.
It's nice to sort of get that out of the way now, so to speak, and in some ways put Australia on the sort of the map of the world in sprinting terms.
To run sub-10, and he ran a decent way under 10, is significant in the world. We know that there's only 39 men have done it, the first in 1968. It's very easy not to be humble in those situations, but I think that this boy has enormous levels of control and humility. Patrick doesn't actually fit into the framework of the extroverted sprinter. What he can't do now is choke on what he's done. And you often see that with the athletes where they actually run a great performance and they can't do it again.
it's a different era now, and I got the start and the top speed, and we're looking now for Paris.
World record holder Tim Montgomery has been pushed all the way by Australia's Patrick Johnson.
And it's a fantastic time to be running the time he has, because he's got the whole European season ahead of him, finishing with the World Championships. What he's got to do is get out and perform as well as he has already, if not better.
It's unreal, it's just amazing. He's done more in his short little life than I've ever accomplished in my fairly long life.
In a lot of ways, my dad's always there, and also my mum. So I think always my mum's looking over me.
For moments in time there, I thought, well, gosh, now I've lost my kid. There he goes. I mean, will he get arrogant? Will he sort of just drift away and say, bye, Dad, don't need you anymore?
I've grown up a little bit more. My dad's got a bit older, but, he's still my dad, and I still love him. And he's done so much for me.
You can't help but being proud of a kid that sort of is not only upholding the values that I taught him, he's now doing it all by himself and doing it with ease.
I wouldn't be the person I am today without my father. I can never repay him. I have a window of opportunity now, and I'll take it. In my heart, if I know I've done the best I can, then I can hold my head high and be so proud of who I am.